sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones, and this podcast is called My Sister's a Therapist because my sister's a therapist.
Hello, my name is Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. My sister is a seasoned comedian.
I've started talking about this podcast on stage because it kind of rolls into a joke that I do. It's already had interesting blowback. To the table in Oakland who did not get stickers, so sorry, you deserve them. It was user oversight, but I'm glad you enjoyed the show. So we've been talking about this topic a little bit. It's a fun pop culture water cooler topic. Today, I'm talking about childbirth order.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I'm so glad you think so. So the first person to really pay attention to birth order was this guy, Alfred Adler, and he's a psychotherapist. And the great thing about that is I have future topics that have nothing to do with birth order that are also Adler topics. So this is just Adler part 1.
Fun fact, Adler, like all white male therapists, named his style of therapy Adlerian.
Right.
Why do you just have to name it after yourself?
He was friends with Freud, and he's like, well, he called it Freudian therapy. I guess my name's Adler. I mean, it's not the most creative idea.
No.
So first I want to cover kind of the rules that guide birth order. So if you are an older sibling, but your next sibling is 10 years after you,
you're an only child.
You're an only child, because even if you spent some time of your life living with that person, it wasn't your formative years.
Fun fact, a person that I married was an only child, even though he had a brother.
And then twins are exempt because twins usually get special attention from their parents. So twins don't even apply in this.
I'm really surprised to hear that, because when I've heard twins talking about themselves, literally they will say my older brother because he came out 1 minute earlier.
Yes, it's a very important distinction to twins that someone is 1 minute older or younger than the other. But in birth order science, like, they have essentially the same time on the planet. They have essentially the same time with their parents, so they're not gonna have the same effect.
I guess my understanding of it is psychologically, it's still the same thing, because one defines themselves as the firstborn and the second, as the secondborn. It's dumb, but I think it's psychological.
Okay, so let's talk about firstborns. That's me. Firstborns are privileged. We have a moment in time where all of the parents' attention is on us, but also can be neurotic, can feel excessive responsibility, raising younger kids, for example, a fear of dethronement. I'm the youngest and cutest person until my sibling comes along.
So I've heard a comparison between a first child in a family with a first wife and a polygamist marriage.
Gross.
In that, well, it's the sense that, like, you go from being the most important person to kind of taking backstage to everyone else and being less important. So when I heard that analysis or comparison, I felt sad for firstborns.
Thank you very much. Well, and also I see this similarity. You're doing most of the work.
Well, especially if you're in a large family, like maybe one that would be traditionally polygamous.
Right. Like a family in a religion that used to be polygamous and still is sometimes.
It still kind of is.
Something that I've carried around, which is, I guess, not as true as it was originally stated, is that firstborns were always the most intelligent. If you were secondborn, the best thing for you is if the firstborn died. If you were,
that's wonderful.
If you're the thirdborn, your best shot at getting smarter is for the other two to die. Now it looks like what they're talking about is 1 or 2 IQ points on standard testing, like nothing to run a company about. I still believe that it's 100% true, and I'm smarter than everybody, so it's more.
Okay.
Firstborns are often type A's, a lot of doctors in firstborns, a lot of biology majors. Word on the street is leaders, high achieving, sometimes overachievers, structured, organized, responsible, mature. Some of these are true of me and some of them are not. one thing we all have in common is that attention abruptly changes when the next kid comes along, and you do have to share your parents' time and attention.
Well, it's interesting because that's the same thing that people say about onlys, right? And I think that, the thing that firstborns and onlys have in common is that they have a lot of attention from adults.
Overall, research has found that firstborns tend to have more advanced cognitive development. So they may be more prepared for school. They may score higher on tests just because they have that. They're like little adults in some ways.
Why do you think they have higher cognitive development?
So then there's the two sides, right? The firstborn gets more attention from the parents, but then when more kids come along, that firstborn is often expected to help be caregivers, be more responsible and motivated to excel. So maybe that affect cognitive development?
Yeah, that would make sense. Because if you have more responsibility, then you're building more neural networks. According to USA Today, firstborn children may have better thinking skills than their siblings because they receive more mental stimulation during the earliest stages of development.
And the firstborn famously is the one the parents they've read all the books and they're going to do everything right. And they've got the right educational toys, and you're going to have wooden toys and high contrast surroundings so that your brain is just stimulated as heck. And then by the time it's the last child, they just give you a burlap sack and say, hit the road, hobo.
They're sitting in the corner playing with a dog toy.
Okay, so middle child, that's Laura. Middle children may seek social attention outside of the family. They can sometimes be overshadowed by older siblings. So middleborns are often described as peacemakers, people pleasers, adaptable, attention-seeking, jealous, competitive, sometimes insecure. They can also have a rebellious streak because they want to stand apart and get some attention that they are deficient in.
Yeah, I definitely identify with the rebellious part because I think what I realized at a really young age is that there is no room for me in this family. So I just thought, I'm not going to try to get anyone's attention. So I'm just going to do my own thing.
Well, and in our family, because there were 5, you were the most middle of all middles. You're the classic.
Smack dab in the middle.
I'm stuck in the middle with you. Some studies show that middle kids are less likely to feel close to their mothers and are more likely to have problems with delinquency. Now, that I feel like was kind of true. I did bad stuff when I was a teenager, but Laura really had some moments of going out and drinking schnapps.
Doing inhalants.
Sure.
Taking speed. I did a lot of drugs. As a young, very young person.
I did a lot of drugs too, but they tended to be psychedelics and it tended to be more college age. Laura was a teenager.
I did those too.
Yeah. Right. Yes, obviously.
Now I remember actually with an ex-boyfriend, he was trying to convince me that I should try to take LSD as a 20-something rather than a 13-year-old because that would be so much cooler because I'm more mature. And I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I don't, there's no.
As Bruce McCullough said, I did all my acid by grade 8.
Same.
Middle children may be more sensitive to rejection because you are also always in competition with your siblings. Middle children may have insecurity, fear of rejection, and poor self-confidence. Also, an interesting thing is children of the same gender will be competitive in a way that children of opposite gender are not.
Absolutely.
Because I guess we're trying to compete for the same stuff. Now, we've mentioned it before. Laura and I were informed by our dad that I was the smart one and she was the pretty one, which makes everybody feel bad.
It does. And I think, you and I were competing for male attention, which I think was not good.
Right.
That was kind of a good thing about Emily being so much younger than me, that it was never an issue.
Right. You're not in competition with Emily because you are in totally different places doing totally different things. You and me and Robbie are about a year apart, tastelessly described as Irish triplets. We were very much in the same developmental kind of arena.
Yeah, and competing for the same resources.
We saw a TikTok today about a homeschool family with 11 kids, and the creator said, at what point is this child abuse? At what point is it abusive to have more kids? Because there's no way 2-parent family has the resources, time, emotionally, even if you have the money to raise 11 kids. The older kids are raising the younger kids.
I think if you have more than 3 kids, it's not a good idea.
Someone is going to lose out. And in this economy, who can afford it? Then we have the last child, the babies. They may be perceived as more spoiled and pampered compared to their older siblings. Parents will often take a more laissez-faire approach. Last-born children is sometimes described as outgoing, fun-loving, charming, free-spirited, immature, self-centered, dependent, and risk-taking. They may be more outgoing, sociable, and charming because they grew up around more people. Like the firstborn just had the parents and the last child has everybody above them.
Right. And I think also it's way easier to take risks when there are people standing by to help you.
Right. I saw this quote: if the youngest of many children is female, she tends to be more coddled or cared for, leading to a greater reliance on others compared to her older siblings, especially in larger families.
Well, and I remember when Emily and I would travel together, she would make fun of me for having too much stuff, you know, and then the entire trip would be asking me for all the various stuff because she didn't pack it.
Right. Because you were the mom in that relationship for several years.
But also because I'm the older sister, because I have to, you know, take care of everything and she can just chill out and show up and do whatever. Sunscreen be damned.
Footloose and fancy free, the baby of the family. Now, it's interesting because Emily was hello, Emily, if you're listening. Emily was very much the baby of the family, and you guys had your interesting relationship where you were kind of caretaking her for several years during college and after college. But she has somehow developed into a type A. Like if you just met Emily, I think you would think she was a firstborn.
Absolutely. Yeah, she has a lot of the tenets. And I think it's also that gap, right? She had of course, John Pierre was living with her, but I think she had mom to herself for a long time. So she kind of was raised like an only or a firstborn.
That's interesting. So, and then last of all, we have only children. They're the first of all. They're the alpha, they're the omega. They never have to share their parents' attention ever. And so they can be like a firstborn in many ways, but they never have to caretake anybody else. These are the little adults. They are mature, diligent, thoughtful, perfectionist, high achieving, self-reliant, sensitive. They may not have the social skills that kids in bigger families have.
They also struggle with compromise and being self-centered.
Right. They have problems with sharing, arguments, negotiating, compromising, because they never had to.
Right.
So it's been said that the birth order is kind of like Charles Darwin's finches. Are you aware of Darwin's finches on Galapagos?
No.
So the Galapagos Islands has 13 distinct species of finch. They're all finches, but there are different sizes. They eat different things, and most especially their beaks are different. If you have evolved to eat nuts, you have a big broad beak that you can crack nuts with. If you are a insect and grub eating bird, you are a finch who has a long pointy beak because you can find bugs in holes and in out of the way crevices. So the theory is that these finches, you know, they all came out of one bird, developed distinctive adaptations to their distinct natural habitats. Each of them becomes a specialist in their own thing. So a firstborn might have a tendency to be more adult, might have more leadership skills, and might lean into that. The lastborn might have a tendency to be more social and extroverted and say, well, this is my specialty. So we're all going to try to get our needs met by specializing in the thing that we do.
And I think also the motivation, right? If I'm the firstborn, let's say, of a family of 5 children, I'm kind of pushed into that role.
Right. You didn't ask for it, but there's all these kids.
Right. And when we discovered that my son has a sister, whenever I take care of her, I ask a lot of him.
Right.
And
he doesn't usually have to do.
And he doesn't like it.
Doesn't like it. Doesn't love it.
He doesn't, I'll ask him, you have to, put her in her car seat. You have to help me get her water bottle. You have to do stuff.
And it's also a shock to dude. Like especially when he was younger, I perceived him as being super jealous of that baby.
Oh, it's still happening. Don't worry.
But because he's getting the shock to the system of not being the alpha and the omega.
Right. But it makes it, for me, the positive benefit, the net benefit is that I get cuddled by 2 people at the same time, sort of on top of me. It's so cozy and I love it so much.
Sandwich. Yeah.
Because, he won't come near me for a year, but as soon as she pops up, he's all about mom.
Oh, that's interesting. Just a little bit of competition. Just
moves the needle. I was also going to say regarding youngest children, it makes sense to me why sociability is important because they need to be accepted by the clan. Right? Yeah. It's really important for their development that the other kids like them. So it makes sense that they would be focused on sociability and eating worms.
A friend of mine has an only, and she was kind of like, vetching about this kid.
Complaining a bit.
Having a bit of a complaint and saying, I don't understand why she doesn't want to do what the teachers tell her. I don't understand why she doesn't want to make good grades. She doesn't seem to care. Because she was like, when I was a kid, I wanted everybody, I needed everybody to like me. I wanted everybody, I wanted to be the good girl. I wanted to have good grades. And I said, have you thought about a little bit of neglect?
Have you considered some light neglect?
Just some light emotional neglect, because let me tell you, Laura and I have this in common. We wanted to jump through every hoop. We wanted the good girl, good stars all the time.
And sometimes we still do.
Of course, I'm kidding. But yes, the personality type that you get from competing with other kids is going to be real different than the only kid personality type who doesn't have to try maybe that much.
Well, I think they get a lot more unconditional acceptance, and there's very little required of them,
Well, on the other hand, they bear the weight of all the parental expectations.
Right. I picked up my son at my friend's house. She picks him up on Thursdays from school, and her parents were there, and they were commenting about his social skill. They were saying, gosh, he's so good, at making conversation, and he's so amiable. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, it's because he's around adults most of the time. Right. He thinks you're his peers.
Right. This is who he's growing up around. That's how he communicates. So I talked about this for a second, but I'm going to come back to interfamily relationships and how birth order affects that. So, and how gender makes you compete in strange ways, same sex and opposite sex. In a family with two female siblings, the younger one often appears more confident and empowered, while the older one might be more achievement focused and insecure because I'm no longer the cute one, right?
I think that's true. I think that's part of it. I don't have anything to lose, right? I was talking to a client the other day. I was quoting something that I'd said to my father when he was alive. And they said, I can't believe you talked to your dad. And I thought, he didn't like me anyway.
Right. Right. There was nothing on the table.
There was nothing to lose because I was never the favorite. I was just one of the bunch. So I can say what I want.
You have to find wins in this world. You have to find benefits. And one of the benefits of having a neglectful and abusive parent is you don't have to be particularly nice to them.
Exactly.
But that effect, okay, so the thing where an older sister might be less secure and a younger sister more secure, the opposite is true when it comes to older and younger brothers. That, believe it or not, the older brother is more secure than the younger brother. I guess because, if I'm just extrapolating
physical dominance, you're bigger.
Physical dominance, yeah. It could be because older sisters often assume a motherly role while older brothers might be more of a bully. As a result, younger brothers are generally more insecure, whereas younger sisters tend to be more confident because you got some mothering from me as well as abuse, both physical and mental.
Yes.
Let's talk about relationships. This is something we were talking about the other day, and I found it really interesting. So the fact that Laura brought to me was that the least successful relationships are two firstborn children.
Why would that be? Nobody knows. It's a mystery.
Because everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be the boss. And I feel like it's inherent. I'm inherently a leader. People recognize it in me. Why wouldn't you listen to what I say?
I don't agree with you.
And then Laura, many people have successful pairings with a middle child. So according to this that I found, if you have an oldest with a middle child, the pairing is fine because the middle child is used to negotiating and the eldest is going to be a little bossier. But the middle child may not get to follow their dreams because they're always supporting this firstborn, big firstborn energy.
Accurate. I think
you've had that experience.
I think every person I've dated is either an only or firstborn.
And when we were talking about this, I have exclusively dated firstborns. I have never had a serious relationship that was not with a firstborn or an only. Slider was an only, but in many ways, an only is turbo firstborn.
It's FBE, firstborn energy.
Big firstborn energy. A middle child plus an only child is a good pairing because the middleborn may have some extra maturity and can teach the only child how to share and be more collaborative and can help them with the skills that they're maybe lacking.
Speaking from experience, that has not been a good pairing for me. Of my relationships, the person I married technically was an only because of the age gap.
Your first long-term relationship.
My first long-term relationship was technically an only, again, because of the age gaps. My last relationship was with an only. There's just, it does not work.
But it's interesting it's interesting that that's the pairing that you are attracted to that happens again and again.
If I'm going to put on my therapist hat, I think that for you enjoy competing. And so it makes sense to me that you would find somebody who's a first because they always want to compete. They always want to piss first. They always want to.
I don't know if I'm that competitive about pissing, but I do think that
I'm making a reference to a pissing contest. It's an analogy. It's not to be taken literally.
Help me understand. I don't understand analogies, but I do.
Maybe that's the problem with being.
I'm competitive about who doesn't understand analogies the most. Look, a bird in the hand is worth two in the street.
So then she's out there looking for birds like a big weirdo because she doesn't understand. That's an analogy.
Yeah, I definitely am motivated to be challenged by a partner because I think that that's how you operate at your best capacity. You're also frustrated a lot of the time.
Incorrect.
Hey. Well, these are the ideas that I have. Okay, so a good pairing is firstborn, lastborn, because then you have a person who likes to be in control, but also likes to care for others. And then the lastborn is more dependent, less organized, is going to benefit from that pairing. So last and only children are getting a lot of benefit. Another disastrous pairing is two lastborns. They're going to have a lot of fun, but there may not be anybody driving the boat.
There's no one minding the inn.
There's no one minding the inn. They're going to have good times, but sometimes rent is not going to get paid. And no one remembered to pull the chicken out to defrost it because someone else should be doing that.
Where's my sister?
It's funny because it's like when you talk, like one of the tropes about dating is that two people are talking about how many siblings do you have, and that it's kind of like trite and dumb. But like if
this matters,
it matters. I mean, if I were on a date with someone who was a lastborn, that's good information for me to have. Like, you're going to be a fun baby and it may not work out.
Well, I'm going to do all the work.
I'm going to have to step into the role of being the serious, no fun person, which is not a role that I like.
Right. I was thinking not every man, but a lot of the men that I've dated, it's
hashtag not all men.
They're the older brother of a 2-brother family, and they are the black sheep. That's the person that I enjoy dating.
That's interesting because that's definitely my most recent, and they dislike each other to this day, which I find very sad.
Right. And like when I think about, the younger brother was the golden child, and my partner, whomever he was, was the,
was not bad.
The screw up. Yeah. The one who was kind of the blight of the family. And he just, when I speak about all 4 of them, it's just kind of has a chip on their shoulder.
Right. Yeah. So a firstborn can either be like the super high achiever, my son's a doctor, lawyer, etc., or it can be the screw up who wasn't able to fulfill the high expectations that the family had.
Crumbled under pressure.
Now I just have like fun facts. Birth order may affect health. Studies suggest if you're the oldest, you're more likely to have a lower birth weight than your later siblings. I don't think that's true because I'm pretty sure that I came out like a Virginia ham.
I think, and I'd have to check, but I think we were all around 8 pounds, 5 ounces.
Right.
Sorry, Mom.
We apologize, which was when we were in America considered a very healthy baby. When our youngest brother was born in France, they thought he was a monster.
That he was a beast.
Baby anyone had ever seen. So other medical facts, later born children have an increased risk of hospitalization due to accidents because of maybe lack of parental attention.
Hey, let's put in Exhibit A. Somebody has a permanent scar in her eyebrow.
From being dumped onto the floor.
Right, by her older brother.
Yay. Spanish tile for the win. Men who are born earlier are more emotionally stable than younger siblings. That's upsetting.
That has not been my experience.
Kids born in the first position are less likely to smoke cigarettes than their siblings, which is odd. I certainly smoked cigarettes for years because I was cool.
They can't see the air quotes on that one.
Yes. Kids, smoking cigarettes doesn't make you cool, and neither does vaping.
Vaping makes you extra not cool. There was a TikTok where this person was like, it was a comedian. He was saying, I tried vaping, but then I realized I look like a dragon.
So we talked about medical students and biology majors more likely to be firstborns. Firstborns are more likely to be CEOs, which makes sense. Bossy boss.
Pushy pants.
Men who are only children take greater financial risks than other men, which is interesting. Maybe they feel like they have the support of their parents. They have a backup plan.
Well, they have nothing to lose. They're not going to hurt anybody.
Right. Boys in the number 2 birth position are 20 to 40% more likely to commit crimes and enter the criminal justice system than older brothers.
Robbie, let's go steal a car.
More U.S. presidents were second-born children than any other birth position, which is weird because you would think it would be firsts.
No, you have something to prove.
Right.
So you're going to do a really dumb job that's super hard and doesn't pay anything because you have something to prove.
Later born kids take more risks in sports.
Exhibit A, I broke my wrist.
Right. This is a weird one. Younger brothers are 10 times more likely than older brothers to steal bases in Major League Baseball.
Again, the need to compete, the need to prove yourself. It's strong.
Girls born in the last position in their family are least likely to have a parent to be their primary source of sex education. Guess who's teaching?
The older sister.
I think we've mentioned it before, but I taught my sister the birds and the bees, and she is still mad about it.
Traumatized because you taught me way too young.
Yeah.
I think I was 5 or something. And you're telling me of the ins and outs of penetrative sex.
Literally the ins and outs. Later born children are more likely to major in journalism, business, or art than their older siblings. That's kind of a widespread of things.
Pressure's off.
Right. I guess later children are more likely to follow their dreams, which is cool. Youngest children are more cooperative. Younger siblings are more likely to report being funny than their older siblings. Now, that's not they're funnier. They self-report.
We are funnier. Let's check the records. What do the records say?
That's a whole lot of facts about birth order. I mean, I think it's more accurate than horoscopes and Myers-Briggs.
Absolutely.
There's definitely more that applies than doesn't apply. What are your final thoughts as we talk about this?
I feel very validated because I was right all the time.
Right.
It's interesting because it's not something that I think about on a regular basis about how, this arbitrary fact would affect my relationships and the way that I move through the world. But it absolutely makes sense. I think I am the quintessential middle child. And it is interesting, like when someone comes in my office and they too are a middle child, there's just this instant kind of recognition and understanding that I don't have with kids who are born in a different order.
So you just lock eyes across the room and say, you never got put first. Oh, me neither.
What does it feel like to always have to sit in the back?
Oh, you're always in service to others. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Remember when your parents couldn't remember your name all the time? They kept calling you by your sister's name? Me too. So Virginia, what are your final thoughts on birth order?
Yeah. So my final thoughts are this does confirm a lot of my suspicions about myself. I guess I haven't really thought about I've always thought about how the parents influence kids in birth order. And I've thought less about how we influence each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I started doing EMDR, I assumed that all the trauma was going to be stuff parents did to kids when I was doing reprocessing. But my goodness, it's a lot of sibling stuff.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to just give you a blanket apology. And Robbie deserves one too. Shout out to Robbie.
What about the others?
I never really got a chance to push them around. By the time
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they would agree.
Laura, I want to tell the people, first of all, if you are interested in learning more about our podcast and more about us, you can go see our fantastic, extremely minimalist website, www.mysistersatherapist.com. And you can also find out there that you can contact us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com or hire us at mysistersatherapist.com.
If you would like to hire us to speak at your women's conference, mental health conference, women's leadership event, wellness event, corporate retreat, educational seminar, or workshop, you can do that. Also, my latest ADHD hyperfocus is on having a women's retreat that is a My Sisters a Therapist women's retreat. If you have any ideas on what you would like to do at our women's retreat, drop us a line at hello@mysistersatherapist.com.
But Laura, if people want to find you personally and professionally, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me at lauraryan.org. They can find me on Instagram at My Sister's a Therapist. They can also find Virginia there. They can find me on TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. Hey, Virginia, if anyone wants to reach out to you on the interwebs or find out more about your content, where would they do that?
I would love for people to check out my website, www.badinia.com. That's also my TikTok and my Insta handle. Laura, do you have a listener review to read this week?
Indeed, I do. This is from Girl Sean. Her title is Thank You for Being a Friend. It's nice to have a rational voice or two in your ear talking about things that are actually useful to your overall well-being. In this post-pandemic work-from-home world, the thoughtful and charming candor makes me forget I ever actually wanted to go back to be around people, because it's just kind of rude to put on headphones and drown your coworkers out with MSAT when you share a space.
That's a very specific observation.
Yeah, this is new. We're here with hot takes. Thank you, Girl Sean, for your hot take.
A friend of mine, I told you about this, but I thought it was funny, said that he was walking around singing a song with no words. He didn't know the words, singing a song in his head for 2 days before he realized that it was our jingle.
That was the idea. Create an earworm. Also, hey, fun fact, I just got my first couple sent to me through the podcast. So
that's pretty cool.
I'm excited. They listened to the Imago podcast and they're going to check me out. That doesn't sound good. And they're going to work with me.
In closing.
So thanks, podcast. Thanking the podcast. Thank you, podcast, for the referral.
And in closing, in the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn.
We can make it, baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.